to the professional development session for post-MBBS grads today. Thank you so much for logging in. There has been a little delay, but we are on track right now. I've got Dr. Ashwin on the other side, who is going to be our expert speaker today. I'm Dr. Shravani Reddy. So we'll begin with a brief introduction about Medvarsity and what we're going to be discussing today, and then we'll go on with the discussion with Dr. Ashwin. So about Medvarsity, if I have to begin with, Medvarsity Online, India's first medical e-learning venture, was established in 2000 by the Apollo Hospitals Group. Medvarsity Online has over 35,000 certified graduates as on today, and these online courses are exclusively designed by doctors and for doctors, comprising of about 20,000 hours of content with over 7,000 plus active learners today, and the course accreditation by leading global partners that we will be discussing in the discussion today. With over 40 clinical training partners across the country and even some outside international locations, now we've got students from over 20 countries, and there are 8,000 active learners at any point of time at Medvarsity. And Medvarsity is working at impacting the healthcare ecosystem in a substantial way through these programs and trainings that we offer. With the higher acceptance of online learning methodologies across the globe to fill in the gaps in healthcare education, Medvarsity has become the most widely used knowledge portal today by the healthcare professionals to upscale their medical career. So if we have to talk about the session today, it's going to be about professional development, understanding what are the possibilities and career options that an MBBS graduate can look at once they're done with their MBBS. So for that discussion, I have got Dr. Ashwin Kandula on the other side who's logged in. So Dr. Ashwin is a medical professional with multi-sectoral and cross-geographical work experience across the globe in clinical practice, clinical research, medical education, and even administration. He's currently the Associate Vice President at Medvarsity, working on blended learning solutions for healthcare professionals and bringing on board reputed institutes and partners aligned to Medvarsity's vision and objectives. He's going to be our expert speaker today, discussing about the different career opportunities for post-MBBS graduates. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Ashwin. Would you like to say hello to the students?
Yeah, very good evening to everyone. And, thank you, Dr. Shravani, for the introduction and also for organizing this session. And I'm hopeful that we'll be of some help to the people who have registered for this session today.
Absolutely. So Dr. Ashwin, to begin the session with, like some of the students have already put it in the chat box asking about what is the session going to be about. So I'd like to begin my discussion by talking about, we'll come to the point and talk about the current situation of medical UG, undergraduate and postgraduate seat balance in India. Can you comment on the seat balance between these two?
Well, yes, so let's look at an interesting comparison here on that. In Western countries like USA, there are about 19,000 undergraduate seats and 32,000 postgraduate seats. And even UK has similar figures. So there are more number of postgraduate seats than the undergraduate seats. And that's the reason students from other countries also have an opportunity to do residencies and specializations there. But on the contrast, if you look at in India, we have around 53,000 undergraduate seats and around 23,000 postgraduate seats. So the difference is quite huge, and that means not even 50% of the MBBS graduates have the opportunity to get into a specialty. Hence, postgraduate examinations are extremely competitive here. Like if you look at the example of the last PG-NEET examination, around 116,000 students appeared for this, fighting for the 23,000 odd postgraduate seats. And interestingly, this has a multiplying effect each year because all those students who couldn't get through with the attempt will be redoing it next year. And this time, in addition to the fresh graduates from that year, and which makes that competition much more tougher. So it's a reverse situation for us in India as compared to the Western countries there. So we have very less postgraduate seats available here.
Right. So that makes it very, very clear that there's a huge gap between the undergraduate and postgraduate seats available here today through our PG programs or the entrances that we have.
Yes.
So, Dr. Ashwin, a lot of the times students come to think of it like an end of the road situation for them if somebody doesn't get through these PG programs. Like you rightly mentioned about the current scenario and the recent NEET results, how many cleared and how many did not, or how many qualified and how many did not. Is it really an end of road situation for students who do not get into these PG programs, or what would you like to comment about that?
No, definitely it's not an end of road situation for anyone here.
Right.
See, healthcare has become one of India's largest sectors, both in terms of revenue as well as employment.
Right.
So if you look at traditionally, doctors always used to restrict themselves to working in a hospital or opening up on their own private practice or a clinic or teaching. Right. But now there are many opportunities for them in the healthcare sector. And these opportunities are there in hospitals, pharmaceutical industries, medical devices companies, or you get diagnostics, medical insurance, or telemedicine units.
Right.
And there are several opportunities here. And there are notable positive trends in the industry that supports this. Right. So if you take a few examples, one, emergency medicine is evolving as an emerging branch replacing the casualty services. So if you look at the history, like till 10, 15 years before, emergency medicine was not existing in India. And now recently in the last 10 years, only few hospitals are focused on emergency services. But today, a lot of private hospitals have really put their focus on emergency services, and they are looking for trained physicians in this department. Number two, there's growth of standalone clinics and specialty clinics here. And this sector is growing rapidly. And also, they are not only looking for qualified physicians, but physicians who have some management and administrative capabilities to run their clinics too. So that's another important opportunity area. Right. Number three, there's a shift from the focus on communicable diseases to now more on lifestyle and wellness. And if you observe, there are a lot of startups in this sector, and opportunities are plenty in this area too.
Right.
Similarly, you have emergence of telemedicine, and telemedicine has emerged with a particular focus on taking healthcare to the rural population, and they need a lot of trained physicians.
Right.
Again, the concept of home health, which used to be there earlier in 1970s, 80s, it has come back again. Right. And now it has started up, and many startup companies have come in this, and they not only need doctors there, but all other elite health professionals.
Right.
Also, there's increasing penetration of health insurance, and physicians who have training in health insurance and a good understanding of health insurance policies, they are in great demand.
Right.
And similarly, medical tourism is really booming.
Right.
So there are plenty of opportunities. Other than this, there are a lot of startup companies which are focused on e-health, mobile health, healthcare informatics, and other areas.
Right.
So there's nothing to be worried here, because with limited availability of post-graduation seats, it's not at all a bad idea to look for a change in career track.
Right.
What one needs to look at is an option that suits their interest, their abilities, and circumstances.
Right.
Having said that, while there is increasing demand for medical professionals in these areas, the job market here is also very competitive. The preference is for those who have a formal training, who have formal skills or suitable skills, and also, most importantly, the ability to do multitasking. Nowadays, even in healthcare sector, everyone is expected to extend their roles and not restrict their role. So, not at all a reason to be the end of the road, and there are plenty of opportunities available.
Very, very aptly put, Dr. Ashwin. But as you rightly mentioned also, that traditionally, anybody getting into a medical college and graduating from a medical college, the traditional thought is to get into clinical practice. And earlier, it was just the only option that they would look at and get into. But even so today, if somebody still wants to continue only in clinical practice or would want to be in patient care, directly involved in patient care as a clinician, but have not gotten through these examinations or PG programs, is there any other opportunities or options that such students can still go for? Any training programs or opportunities that they can avail if they did not get into these PG entrances? Can they still continue in clinical practice? What kind of options do you think they have here?
Yeah, the first preference would obviously for anyone would be to continue in the clinical practice and always to get a PG seat in India itself.
Yeah.
Well, this is good, but what is advisable is always to have a plan B in place because time is really precious. And not only that, it's important to keep oneself updated every time in this profession. And even for those who decide to work in hospitals or in private practice, it's important for them to keep themselves updated and work on their professional advancement. So yes, to looking at this preference of continuing in clinical domain, there's nothing to be disappointed. There are options available here too. So if you look at the possible options in staying in the clinical domain, well, one has to choose if they have to reappear for this PG examinations like for the MD/MS or diploma or the DNB examinations. Or another option is they can look into getting into a PG seat in private medical colleges.
Okay.
Or the other possibility is trying for a PG abroad. Like there are several countries, like as I mentioned earlier in US or UK, there are plenty of postgraduate seats. So they can take up the USMLE path for USA, or they can take the PLAB road for UK, or the Australian Medical Council examinations for Australia.
Yeah.
And nowadays, interestingly, there are plenty of opportunities in other countries like Germany. So one can apply for observerships and later apply for residencies there. But the only problem with that is they have to complete the language levels and language training there.
Yeah.
But nowadays, there's a lot of restriction on these visas, so it's not getting really lucrative on this side.
Yeah.
The other option would be trying for a foreign qualification.
Right.
See, a lot of foreign qualifications are recognized specialties in India by MCI. Like if you look at MRCP or MRCS or MRCOG, these are all recognized qualifications here. So it's a very good option because these are exam-based memberships offered by UK or Ireland or other countries. Or nowadays, there's an increasing demand for another membership, that is the member of Royal College of Emergency Medicine.
Okay.
So because, as I said earlier, there's huge demand in emergency services. People who have qualified this examination, now they're working as junior consultants or senior consultants, or some of them have even reached the head of the ER departments.
Yeah.
Or one can choose to do an MRCGP International and look out for options of working in family medicine units of the hospitals or standalone clinics.
Right.
And not only this, there are plenty of listed qualifications from abroad which are accepted in this country and recognized by MCI.
Right.
So one can look at these qualifications on the MCI website. A link has been shared, I think, on the PowerPoint too.
Yeah.
So if someone is not able to afford the time needed for all these things or the cost involved in it, they might even choose for some short-term courses and training programs in India itself. And a lot of foreign institutes are now coming forward and partnering with Indian institutes to run some joint certification programs.
Right.
But what one has to remember here is MCI does not recognize the courses which are usually in the online or blended learning format. But definitely these certification programs can be useful for upskilling or reskilling, keeping oneself updated, or increasing their employability opportunities because they stand or they can differentiate from others who are applying for the same job with some formal training there. I think these are some of the options people have.
Right. So in the same context with Ashwin, if somebody is looking at joining clinical programs or certifications, but haven't gotten through these formal PG entrances, but they still want to be in clinical medicine. Now, initially, when I began my discussion, I spoke about Medvarsity and how they're trying to make a difference in the healthcare training sector. So can you talk about what sort of clinical training programs that Medvarsity offers?
See, what we at Medvarsity are doing is, so we are analyzing the industry needs. So if you look at the disease burden in the country,
Yeah.
A lot of disease burden or the deaths related are related to the non-communicable diseases, cardiological conditions, or accidents and traumas, or diabetes is number one killer, stroke, and all this. So based on these and the necessity that the country needs in supporting the healthcare in these domains, we have assessed and created some clinical trainings at Medvarsity. And Medvarsity has been offering several clinical programs in various specialties. And some of them are accredited by and jointly certified by international partners like Royal Liverpool Academy from UK and University of New South Wales, Australia. So these partners play a major role in designing the program, reviewing and validating the content, and participating in the assessments.
Right.
So there are programs offered in areas of emergency medicine, diabetes management, infectious diseases, epidemiology, biostatistics, clinical cardiology, 2D echocardiography, lifestyle medicine, pediatrics, OBGY, critical care medicine, or short-term courses like ECG and BLS.
Yeah.
So the duration of these programs vary from 1 month to 1 year, and most of these programs are in a blended learning format with the teaching and learning methodology involving online learning and supported by live virtual classes and clinical attachments or internships or observerships. So if you look at, because of the high attrition rate with junior doctors in hospitals, and if I have to mention this, the attrition period for junior doctors at hospitals is 7 months. That means every 7 months, people are trying to recruit new set of junior doctors at hospitals. So because of this reason, there's constant demand for these junior doctors to work in various departments or specialties. And if people have passion for a particular specialty or division, there is right opportunity there.
Right.
But more particularly in emergency and critical care area, the demand is more and the need for trained professionals is quite high there. And also the employability prospects are very good in those areas.
Right. So, Dr. Ashwin, you talked about the different clinical areas that students can explore and what Medvarsity is doing on that front. But we were also discussing about what are the non-clinical options that a medical graduate can look at. Now, we were talking about both clinical and non-clinical when we began the discussion. So, can we talk about what are the non-clinical opportunities or career options that a student can look at? Because a lot of times these are really alien to a lot of medical graduates. As I said, traditionally it's been only clinical practice, but there's a lot of scope outside it as well, like you said in your initial talk. So can you comment about what are the non-clinical areas that one can explore?
Right. So traditionally, if someone is not able to get into the post-graduation, either they've started working in a hospital or they've started their own clinical practice, or if this is not getting viable, most of the people have started moving away from the industry totally. But there's no requirement for that because there are plenty of opportunities within the healthcare domain and one can really explore their opportunities here, like areas of healthcare management, clinical research, healthcare informatics or health insurance, quality management, medical tourism, home health, telemedicine, or there are opportunities if somebody is really good at writing and have the passion for writing medical content. There's plenty of opportunities in content writing,
right.
Opportunities in medical transcription. And interestingly, while some of them have clinically relevant roles, others have an administrative or management-oriented ones. So if someone is looking to get into these domains, there is an opportunity to grow quick in this, to earn good salaries also, but it's always advisable to have some prior training in this.
Right.
So all these areas have plenty of opportunities. One needs to explore, evaluate themselves first. What is their interest? What suits them?
Right.
Capabilities or abilities already they have, and make a right choice and get some good formal training in it. I think the career is going to be good.
Right. Now we talked about healthcare management. That's the first thing you listed, Dr. Ashwin. So as healthcare management experts, I believe one can find opportunities in all the non-clinical domains that you talked about. Can you talk about how lucrative is this as such, and what needs to be done, and what are the prospects for this?
Right. So as I said earlier, healthcare industry in India has witnessed a remarkable growth in the past few years. Right. And most interestingly, the concept of healthcare has gone beyond hospitals now. And the industry is looking for qualified healthcare management professionals. So if someone wants to get into it, the best path is to choose an MBA in healthcare or a master's or diploma in hospital administration. And as a healthcare manager or administrator, one can find opportunities in hospitals, clinics, pharmaceutical companies, health insurance organizations, universities and research institutions, diagnostics, telemedicine centers, right. Home health organizations. There are plenty of units like this.
Right.
And also, if someone can look at training in adding to the healthcare management in some quality management or hospital accreditation requirements or insurance, it can be an added advantage in this area. And Medvarsity also has some flagship programs in healthcare management. So Medvarsity runs a 2-year MBA in hospital and healthcare in association with MIT University, and this is actually an MIT University degree.
Right.
There's also a 1-year postgraduate diploma in hospital administration. Also, Medvarsity is partnered with eCornell, which is an Ivy League university from US, and we are running a couple of courses with them, like business excellence for healthcare professionals, executive leadership for healthcare professionals. But these are really time-bound and short courses with a high value.
Right.
There are other areas also, other courses like NABH or quality management or courses in health insurance and medical tourism too.
Right.
So I advise people to look at what is really interesting to them and what is a motivating thing for them and choose the right career there.
Right. Very rightly put, Dr. Ashwin. So we've spoken about what are the different career opportunities that one can look at, clinical, non-clinical, and what Medvarsity in particular is doing about. So while initiating the conversation, I did discuss with you how it has made a difference to me also. So you had a couple of things to point out there as well. So can we discuss about that?
Yeah, right. Let me ask you a question at this stage. I understand that before joining Medvarsity, you have also done a couple of trainings with Medvarsity.
Yeah.
And why don't you share how this has benefited you and how was your experience overall?
Right. So as I was repeatedly saying to, addressing all the students also, traditionally, any medical graduate looks at taking up a clinical course ahead and clinical career ahead. And that's how after graduation, even I have pursued for clinical practice, and I did practice as a resident doctor, as a medical officer, and then at my own private clinic as well. So as you've been discussing the clinical programs at Medvarsity, so 2 of the programs that attracted my interest because of the way that they would fit me into my own circumstances and need was the family medicine program with the Royal College and the diabetes fellowship with the Royal Liverpool Academy. The reason I chose those programs were, as I said, as you've been mentioning initially also, some things, the courses that will suit my interest, my current practice then, and my circumstances, of course, and the opportunities those programs might open up for me in the future. So as a resident doctor out of the medical college, I was only focused, for the basic management as, in the wards or the OPD. But to be able to get an expertise at that level certified by the Royal College in family medicine or getting a certificate in management of diabetes from Royal Liverpool Academy looked like a right opportunity for me to add value to my current practice then. Even if I was going to go into a corporate setup, continue my clinical career, I knew that this would add value to my training experience and the clinical skills experience. So that was one of the reasons I did. But it would have been impossible for me to do those programs continuing what I was doing as a working professional, as a clinician, if it was not a blended learning program. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to give time for a full-time program. So that way, I think both the courses have helped me shape up the clinical side of my career the best possible way. So that's how I got connected to Medvarsity. But to look at what I'm doing today here as a clinical manager is entirely different from the clinical practice. This comes to the non-clinical opportunities that we were discussing earlier about the operations role that I'm doing today. I think how this has helped me make a difference to my own career and to what I'm doing today here as well is, to me, it has helped me shape up the managerial and leadership skills, which are traditionally not taught in a medical school. Our curriculums don't teach us those things. But like you rightly mentioned, Dr. Ashwin, today in healthcare, we are all expected, be it clinical or non-clinical, we are expected to extend our roles, which is something our colleges do not teach. At least I was not prepared for a managerial role anywhere in healthcare for that matter. I was only a clinician. So I think taking up a role as a clinical operations manager, trying to connect with the faculty as the faculty in charge, and helping the students and in terms of academics with respect to the examinations of the Royal College or the Royal Liverpool Academy, I was able to don those skills in managerial departments and leadership skills, and also learned the academic side of the courses and programs as well. So I think I've seen both sides of it as a student when I was still a clinician. Today here sitting and operating this also, I have seen this side of it as well. And I've definitely found myself in need of certain skills to be shaped up, which I've picked up during the time here at Medvarsity. So I think you've rightly said when you talked about the extension of roles in healthcare today, the clinician is no longer a clinician. They get to interact with multiple departments, even within a hospital setup, if not in a corporate organization. So I think, polishing our skills in those areas is very much essential. You spoke about tourism, you spoke about insurance, you spoke about hospital management, wherein all our clinicians are involved in those departments, but none of us are trained. So some of these courses that we do really help those students as well. And I think that's the reason a lot of the clinicians from hospitals today take up a lot of our non-clinical programs to add value to their existing clinical knowledge. A lot of our students are practicing clinicians who take up administration program or NABH. A lot of them are coming forward. Quality became an important aspect of every hospital and healthcare today. So I think that's very essential, non-clinical knowledge. I think that is my biggest advantage of being here, that I was able to get that understanding of the healthcare management side of it or the administration side of it. So I think that's what I have got to say about my experience here.
Great. Good to know your experience and your journey. And I'm glad that now we are looking for a training in the healthcare management side too. So all the best to you.
Yeah, thank you so much. So
for Q&A.
Yeah, we will open up for Q&A. I think we've tried to give a brief understanding to the attendees about what are the different career opportunities that all of you can look at and all of us can look at. So if there are questions that you want to pose now, so Dr. Ashwin and myself would be happy to answer. So I've seen some questions already in the chat box. To all the students, you can still keep posting your questions in the chat box. We'll take one by one. Okay. So Dr. Ashwin, I'll try and identify some questions and probably we can start answering them. Okay. So Daman had a question, Dr. Ashwin. We can do the courses listed under foreign qualifications after MBBS ? I think she is talking about the foreign opportunities that you spoke about.
Right. I think if you're referring to the foreign qualifications of MRCP, MRCS, or MRCOG, yes, please refer to the websites on this, and there are prerequisites for each of these, like what kind of experience you need, the number of years of experience you need. These are all exam-based. You don't need any formal training anywhere, but there are parts of this examination, and each part has a specific requirement, like certain examinations need you to work for 3 to 4 years in the clinical practice. Definitely, these are some good options. So everything is described on their websites very clearly. And if you follow that and make a plan around it, I think they're quite doable and it doesn't take much time even.
Also, Dr. Ashwin, if she was even referring to the, so she just said foreign qualifications. So we also have got accreditation partners like the Royal College and the Royal Liverpool Academy and UNSW Australia certifying our programs. So do you want to talk about if the students can do these courses after MBBS?
Yes, definitely they can do the joint certification programs because, as I said earlier, even though they are not MCA recognized, but they have a value in the market because of the quality assurance that the foreign partner plays in this and the robust examination systems we have.
Yeah.
And everything around it proves that, like, for example, take the emergency medicine that course at Medvarsity runs.
Yeah.
And this was started way back in the year 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
And almost 3,000 to 3,500 doctors got trained on this. And if you look at any of the emergency units across the country, there'll be at least one or two who was trained here. And also most of the consultants now or the trainers now, they have started their career with this and they've taken this as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And they have gone to the MRCM and some of them have done the FRCM even. And that's also a good option.
Right. I hope that has answered your query, Damanpreet. Okay. Let's take a question from Dr. Praveen Kumar. Hi, Praveen. So, Dr. Ashwin, Praveen wants to know if MRChem recognized in India.
Right now, I think it's not, but very soon it will be. And even though I think there's nothing to be worried about whether it is recognized or not, because all the private sector hospitals, they are open to MRCM qualified. Because if you look at the MD emergency medicine or DNB emergency medicine seats, they're very limited. And all those who have already completed this training are very few in this country. So the dependence is more on the MRCM qualified people. And the demand is quite high. So very soon, I think there'll be a recognition for this even by the MCA.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Ashwin. Dr. Ashwin, there's an interesting question by Mr. Jamshed here. He says, I'm doing my PG-DHA. Can I get into the clinical side? My background is software engineering.
Well, that's quite interesting question. So, well, yes, if you say clinical side, maybe not to the core clinicals, but to the adjunct clinical side.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have some opportunities around it. Like, say, for example, you can do something on biostatistics or epidemiology, or you can do something in nutrition.
The basic certificate program, yeah.
On the allied healthcare side or the adjunct side, maybe you can get into, but not on the core clinical. Unfortunately, it's only after doing MBBS. And I don't think after doing your software engineering and doing your PG-DHA, I don't advise you to start with MBBS again.
Right. So Praveen again wants to ask, is it true that MRChem is now replaced by FRChem? I don't think it's a replacement, Dr. Ashwin. It's just two different programs out there.
I think it's a further step. Like there's a membership and there's a fellowship.
Yeah.
And fellowship is the next step to a membership.
Right. So yeah, I think that has answered. That's your question. So students, if you have any further questions, Dr. Ashwin's here. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
There's one more question I can see something from Damanpreet. What is medical writing and medical transcription?
Yeah.
So let me answer this question. So medical writing, so you have something called medical writing or scientific writing. This is applicable in research organizations. So it is writing or concluding the research work or writing protocols in it. So it's all about research work in a specified template format and a very systematic writing form.
Right.
The other form of writing in here is the content writing in clinical medicine. A lot of publishing companies. So it can be magazines, it can be books, or it can be website contents, or it can be nowadays the mobile apps content. So there's a lot of content requirement. Like even Medvarsity needs content writers, as we do several programs in clinical areas. So that's about medical writing and content writing. The other question is about medical transcription. So medical transcription is a coding work. So it's all about coding or transcribing an audio file into a written file or a Word document file. So a lot of times there'll be, if you look at, you're dealing with doctors from other countries, and there are some audio files or other set of digital things which you have to transcribe and put it into codes and transcribe into a Word document. That is about transcription.
Right.
And many of the non-clinical people can also do, but they need a lot of training into it. And it's easier for a medical professional because the only thing they have to learn is the ICD codes. The rest of the terminology is always available to them.
Right, right. So I'm not seeing any questions here. If there are any more questions, and while we wait for another 5 minutes to finish off the questions, Dr. Ashwin, a lot of students who want to pursue these certification or training programs, be it here at Medvarsity or any other institution, a lot of the times I think it boils down to the fact that what value add-on, how it will help them in their career, be it employability or applicability. So would you like to address that scenario about how these training programs can help the situation of their employability and both applicability in their current practice? We can start with emergency medicine.
Right, let me keep it very generalized here. As I said, updating oneself is very important in this profession.
Right.
And whatever training program that you do, it might help you in different ways. Maybe it will help you gain knowledge or skills or gain confidence in working in a particular area, or it can give you an employment opportunity. A lot of times there's this question like, if it's not recognized by MCI or regulatory bodies, how this will help in employment. But if you look at, take this example, take the case if 3 applicants are there at a hospital and all of them want to work in a cardiology department because they have interest in that specialty. Now look at one of them had some kind of formal training and has attended some clinical postings relevant to it. I think if I'm the recruiter there, I would naturally prefer someone who is having the training, because every company needs to invest some time in training their employees.
Right.
And if someone has a prior training, the preference is naturally for them who has this formal training. So it could be useful in that way. And applicability, whatever you've learned, it can be applicable not only in your clinical areas. Like I'm working for Medvarsity. I have a lot of things that I can apply in this domain too. I worked in administrative areas. I worked in medical schools. I worked in clinical research. But everywhere, whatever I have learned from medicine, I could apply everywhere. So that is very important for every person, because learning has to be a continuous process. And one has to invest in learning, and investment in education will always be fruitful at some point in life.
Right, right. Thanks, Dr. Ashwin. There's a question by Dr. Kalyani. Hi, Kalyani. Hello, sir. I wanted to ask if TEM by Medvarsity will be valid to get a job in multi-speciality hospitals other than Apollo, as they're having their own certification courses.
Right. Very good question, Dr. Kalyani. So the answer to this is 100%. And why I say that is, we run this emergency medicine course, and we have partnered with several hospitals for the clinical training to it. And it's just not restricted to Apollo hospitals.
Right.
We have a tie-up with Columbia Asia Group, all the Columbia Asia hospitals.
Yeah.
And many other non-Apollo hospitals like the MaxCure hospitals or SUT hospitals in Kerala or the SPS in Ludhiana.
Yeah.
And we are looking at more partnership with others, because our intent is to get this applicability across different hospitals.
Right.
And I have met personally many doctors who have been working in non-Apollo hospitals even. So it's not restricted to Apollo Group or Apollo itself.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And the last sentence that Dr. Kalyani has put up, as they're having their own certification courses, I think Dr. Ashwin, the reason DEM stands out is for the fact that, like you rightly mentioned, the kind
Correct.
of
Now the certification.
quality. Yeah.
Sorry. Now the certification is by Medvarsity and our international partner, that is Royal Liverpool Academy.
Right. And I think that adds value and that makes the program unique. As Dr. Ashwin rightly pointed out, the amount of, or rather, the role RLA would play in the quality assurance and the kind of assessments and evaluations that the student goes through, I think any hospital, without naming any, would only recognize the value of the trainee once they get out certified. So you shouldn't be worried about that, is what I feel.
And let me add one more point, Dr. Shami, here. You're talking about the role of the training partner or the accreditation partner, Royal Liverpool Academy. So other than the things that you said, they also visit these training hospitals and approve these training centers.
Right.
So that itself shows how much of efforts have been put into making this a quality program.
Right. There is one question by Dr. Praveen. I think we'll take this and then call it. Is it true that after completion of DEM, can I directly go for MRChem Step 2, sir?
No, you cannot directly go to Step 2. See, let me explain you this MRCM process. So MRCM is an exam-based membership.
Yeah.
But you can take up MRCM Step 1 because it assesses your basic sciences knowledge.
Yeah.
And there are some slight changes in the examination pattern now, but if you look at the Step 2 on the other examinations, it is more about testing your clinical skills. So that it has a requirement that you work in emergency departments in some hospitals under the mentorship of someone.
Yeah.
So you cannot directly write Step 2, you have to still write Step 1. But some of the hospitals, when people join for emergency medicine, so these MRCM trainings in the hospitals go on from 2 years to 3 years. So there will be a flexibility in some of these hospitals. If you have done well during the DEM period, they might cut down your MRCM training period to 2 years instead of 3 years.
Yeah.
So that it will be a kind of lateral entry, you can say. But the examination is mandatory. You have to give all the 3 examinations.
Right. Also, to add to that, Dr. Ashwin, I've been seeing students in the emergency course, a lot of them trying to give that 1 year initially to gain that clinical skills and competencies needed before they go on for the extensive training for the MRChem in the next 2 years. More so because, as you clearly know, during the undergraduate internship program, we hardly get any exposure to the actual ER situation. The casualty rotations are very, very limited. So I don't think that gives us enough exposure. So a lot of students do that as well. So they start with DEM and then go on to pursue.
Because there's a huge gap in the MBBS curriculum itself. There's not enough training on the emergency medicine at MBBS level. So always people find it difficult when it comes to MRCM Step 2 and clearing these examinations.
Right. Yes, Dr. Ashwin, you're right. If I don't see any more questions, so students, if you do not have any more questions, then I think we have to call it today because it's already 5 p.m. So if you have further questions, you can always reach out to Medvarsity. You've got our contact details on our website, or you can post on our Facebook page. You can reach out to our teams anytime, and we'll be happy to give you the needed information. Dr. Ashwin, would you like to say any parting note to the students?
I would like to thank everyone for participating in this session and putting up their questions. So I have given my email ID in the chat box. So if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to write to me and reach out to me. Sorry, there's an error in the email ID. I'll just correct it.
Right. That's very nice of you, Dr. Ashwin. Thank you very much. I think if students have any further queries, they can directly write and get them clarified. So there you have the email ID of Dr. Ashwin. So if you have further queries, you can surely write to us. We hope the session gave you some information about how to go about choosing career opportunities, both in clinical and non-clinical domains. So Thank you so much for all of you for joining today. And if you have further questions, as I said, please reach out to us. And please go ahead and look at our website to understand how the programs are structured and how the trainings are done, so that some of them might catch your interest. So thank you so much for joining in. Thank you, Dr. Ashwin, for joining us today.
Great. Thanks, Dr. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.